is happening, fellow fantasy GMs? I am JJ Wang. He is the bearded one, DJ Dub. And with our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
Well, JJ Wang, we survived the hangover known as the 200th episode. We've made it that far, and now it's time for 201. We're recording this on Easter Sunday. Pollen is in the air. I went and exercised so I could go inside and get all the pollen off of me. Do you have spring allergies?
Not really. It's never really hit me. Every now and then I feel kind of funky, but never enough to where I got allergy problems. No, I don't.
Yeah, back home it wasn't bad, but when I moved up to closer to DC, everything went wonky. And then when the poof happens, like when our cars are like yellow, it's terrible. Kind of
Yeah,
like
I feel bad for you.
kind of like what happens if you decide to drive really fast, get in a car accident, and then run from the law, as is the case right now with rookie quasi sensation Rashee Rice. I've been seeing it in passing because I haven't been home a lot today before it. Do you have any specific details? Like, I know he's running from the law. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, just him and his buddy or I don't know if it was his buddy. Just they were racing, and it was evidently there was like 6-car pileup, 6-car vehicle accident, and he ended up leaving the scene.
No one's dead.
Yeah,
Right?
I haven't heard about any of the injuries, so I mean that's still a positive. Probably won't release any
Drivers
of that
treated
yet.
for minor injuries. Yeah, taking hospital minor, so everybody's okay. But yeah,
So everybody's okay. So lucky for him, but I feel like that at some point the NFL has to make an example out of somebody. I mean, this kind of stuff cannot happen. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, yeah, I know you're young. We've all done stupid things when you're young. I totally understand. But then again, we're not the center of an NFL football team worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. Somebody got to be a little more responsible. And as much as I love Rashee Rice, I think he was on an uptake. And I'm sure he'll be suspended 2 games, be right back in, and everything would be like it's all been forgotten, and then we'll just wait for the next person to do it. But at some point, the commissioner has to lay the law down on these guys, or it's just going to keep getting out of control. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because nothing's ever going to change. I mean, these guys are going to do whatever they want anyway.
would Deshaun Watson have been the closest there's been to an example? Because no criminal charges, all civil kind of things, and then they tacked on and made him sit out kind of deal, and the Texans sort of punished him. Would that be the closest we've had, to be honest?
I mean, probably. I mean, he did set out a year, so I mean that was a lot for not being a criminal activity.
Calvin Ridley's.
Calvin Ridley was a little more serious, but see, I feel like Rashee Rice was what he did was worse than now understand Calvin Ridley affected the integrity of the game, and you're not allowed to bet on football, which I totally understand. Going through that with the NBA right now is Jonte Porter, who evidently was betting on his unders and leaving games early. So great job there. But yeah, so I know gambling. They take gambling more serious than they do, out here in public when you're putting other people's lives at risk. And I'm sorry. I mean, I like Rashee Rice, but he's no better. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
So you think 2 games?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a lot. I mean, I think it should be at least a half a season.
Yeah, I'll put 4 because that seems to be a good Mendoza line there. So with the Rashee Rice going on, he'll probably not be at OTAs, not have some passing in the preseason. He'll probably be sitting around for a while collecting dust. Does this 2 questions with them? Does it make you a little more hopeful that something might come out of Hollywood Brown? First question.
I mean, I think Hollywood Brown will be decent. I think Hollywood Brown will be the epitome of a boomer bust wide receiver. If he catches those long balls, he might catch 2 long ball touchdowns. But I don't think it's going to change much whether Rashee Rice is there or not. I don't think Hollywood's going to fall into that number 1 receiver role. I don't think.
And in Dynasty, Rashee Rice, a sell as fast as you can because he seems like a knucklehead, or a buy as low as you can try? What would you do if you didn't have him and if you did have him? He's a hold, right?
I mean, if I have him, I'm probably going to hold on to him because people are going to try to lowball you on him. And at this point, I mean, I would just keep him. And then if you're trying to go grab him, you might be able to find somebody who's like, yeah, I just want this guy off my team. You might get a deal. But I think it's still too early. But if this guy's out here running from the cops, I mean, that's a little more serious than staying at the scene of the crime, accepting your responsibility. I think that would have been, maybe a 2-game suspension. But with him running from the cops and no one knows where he's at, I think that's got to be dude, look what we're doing. It's got to be an 8-game suspension.
You're going high. What would you give? Say he gets 8 games. What would you offer the Rashee Rice owner to get him, knowing that it's 8 games for a what is he, 22, 23-year-old? So second-year receiver. So he's got 6 more years, 7 more years in front of him, as long as he doesn't do anything stupid. If this is a one-time incident, what would you give?
I mean, going by what Rashee Rice did last year, and then thinking that he can keep his head out of his butt, he's still playing with Patrick Mahomes. I think he's still got to be like a low 1, maybe a high 2. I mean, he's still, when he comes back, I mean, he's still going to be the Chiefs' #1 receiver, most likely.
Yep. Well, there's Rashee Rice. Let's move on to some happier-ish notes, and we'll see what happens here. Mike Williams, we've probably mentioned him a little bit, but we're going to circle back around. Mike Williams is now, he went from being the number 2 to Keenan Allen on the 4 games or 5 games he plays a year, and he looks good when he plays, great almost when he plays, to being Aaron Rodgers' number 2 guy behind Garrett Wilson. And what are your feelings on Mike Williams this year? I mean, you got to factor in this dude is Mr. Glass, but what do you think? Is he a buy or a sell?
I mean, I think he's it's tough because he's going to get injured, right? So you're only going to have him for 5 or 6 games, but you can't go into a trade telling the owner and be like, hey, Mike Williams is only going to play 5 or 6 games. That's probably not. That's going to be a hard sell. But honestly, I'm probably just staying away from Mike Williams. If Mike Williams blows up, I'm going to lose out on it. I'm fine with that, but I don't want to overpay for Mike Williams. I mean, if I could give somebody like a mid to low 2nd round pick and they'd give up Mike Williams, I'd probably, go after that, because when Mike Williams does play and when Mike Williams is healthy, I mean, he's a legitimate wide receiver, and Aaron Rodgers, when healthy, is a legitimate quarterback. And I think the Jets are going to be a little better. And as long as Aaron Rodgers is
can't be worse.
Yeah, you're right. And as long as Aaron Rodgers is playing all the games, I think there's going to be plenty of passes to go around. But yeah, I mean, if I could get Mike Williams, mid-2nd round, I'd probably throw a flyer on him in there.
I mean, realistically, he's every year except for 2 missed at least 1 game. I mean, last year he went down, but before that it was 13, 16, 15, 15, 16. So it wasn't as terrible as we make it out to be, but it just seems like, because it's like he limps off the field every other game though too. So
that is I thought it was worse than that going back, but maybe it just seems like
he limps off a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he probably misses. He probably comes in for like a quarter and then misses like the rest of the game, and then plays the next week. But I mean, after you said, yeah, I still wouldn't go any higher than that mid-2nd at this. Yeah, I mean, I'd take a shot on him. I mean, who knows? I mean, he could be a gold mine if he stays healthy.
Wide receiver 3 this year. It's a start.
Yeah, I think a good start. Yeah.
Yeah, and the last little tidbit before we get into JJ Wang's college quarterback expertise is Zeke Elliott is in discussions to possibly go back to Dallas. Is that a good reunion, or is Dallas just settling, seeing that the market has shrunk, or where do you see this all landing?
I'm not sure where this. I don't know, but have any idea what the Cowboys are doing. They didn't do anything in free agency. Hopefully, they do something a little better in the draft. But I don't know. Zeke Elliott wasn't really all that great last year. When he left Dallas, he was okay, but there's a reason they left. There is a reason they got rid of him. I don't see Zeke Elliott coming back in and doing anything spectacular. I mean, I really don't understand. I think the more interesting thing with the Cowboys is maybe what they're doing with Dak Prescott at the moment. A lot of talk is that he might just be playing out this season and then hitting up free agency, which is crazy to believe, considering the way the Cowboys or the way the NFL is going with the quarterbacks. But I can't see Dak Prescott being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Dak Prescott should never be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And then when he signs his next contract, that's probably what he's going to ask for. And I just don't think that's responsible for the Cowboys. And if I was the Cowboys, I'd be like, I'd play him this year. And if I'm not going to keep him, why not trade him and try to get something big back for him, right?
Yeah, trade. I mean, he's got leverage though, coming off of 4,500 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. I mean, that's as much as you dislike him, that's a pretty money season. I mean, probably.
He's got leverage, but is Dak Prescott the highest paid quarterback worth being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? You're talking
Was Joe Flacco
more than Allen, huh?
Was Joe Flacco? Joe Flacco started this mess. They gave him.
Yeah, but at least Joe Flacco's won something.
But it's not the NBA.
But it doesn't. At least Flacco's good enough to get you somewhere. Dak is not good enough to get you anywhere. Dak can barely get you to the playoffs.
That's just the Cowboys these days. I don't know. I think
But
whatever quarterback signs next always makes the most. And then the next quarterback. I mean, you're like Tua's the next in line. They're going to pay him. They're good. That's why they let Christian Wilkins go and other guys go. Dak's got. I just can't see them letting him walk. I mean, they did let Kirk Cousins walk in Minnesota, so this could be a new age of quarterback we're looking at. Because I mean, Minnesota is not better this year. Justin Jefferson could walk. He could be like, hey, I'm not playing for you guys because you're making me play with Sam Darnold. No.
I mean, think about this. If Minnesota wants a quarterback, why not trade Dak to Minnesota for those 2 first-round draft picks that they got, if you can get 2 first-round draft picks, and then the Cowboys can in turn use those 2 draft picks to trade up like Minnesota was doing and getting a younger quarterback, because you've got to sign Micah Parsons and you've got to sign CeeDee Lamb. And $60 million to Dak Prescott, I'd rather have those other 2 guys.
And Minnesota's got that Justin Jefferson problem. Same thing with the CeeDee Lamb problem that Dallas has. I saw one where they were talking about Kyler Murray, like maybe Minnesota trading with Arizona and pulling in Kyler. That would be spectacular. I got some Murray shares. I would love that one. Murray to Minnesota with some trades. But I mean, they're posturing to move up. It'll be interesting to see what else they have to get up. I mean, they really got to move to what? 4, 5 slots somewhere in there, because Arizona's taking Marvin Harrison barring some trade.
Yeah, so, I mean, if they want that quarterback, they're going to have to move up to 4 or 5, because I think the Giants at 6, there's a real possibility of them taking a quarterback if one's available. So I think you're going to have to get to that 4 or 5 spot.
Well, that's where we go. So if Zeke, my Zeke thoughts are they're going to take Zeke back. He's going to be their bolder. He'll score 15 touchdowns, run for about 475 yards. They're going to draft a rookie. I mean, there's with what they got. If Dallas doesn't draft a rookie running back, they basically are going to throw 700 times this year. There's no way around it. Like, they're not going to go with Malik Davis or
Rico Dowdle.
Yeah, Rico Dowdle. That's not going to be the starting. That's not going to be the running back committee for Dallas. They're going to draft someone. They're just showing their hand. Hey guys, guess what? We're drafting a running back, and everybody else is going to start drafting just to make them posture and pay up for some guy they don't want. So, but I could see, because Dak and Zeke are tight, so it could be Dak like, hey, I'll take a little less if you bring. I don't know. They're super. I don't think
a little less to bring Zeke back. You should only be paying Zeke $1 million.
That are doing this. Tom Brady did it for how long? He didn't take the max contracts.
I'm sorry, but Tom Brady's the only guy that did that. All these, I mean, how much are you paying Zeke? $1 million?
He's getting he's going to get the minimum, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, Dak Prescott isn't taking a pay cut so they can pay Zeke $2 million. I mean, Dak Prescott's going to come in and hey, I'm giving me $60 million or I'm going to walk. Well, you know what, buddy? Walk away, dude, because you are not worth $60 million.
You won't get 60 from anybody, will he? Our team's going to start realizing this has gotten a little too inflated.
Well, I mean, people are already getting $50 million a year.
Yeah, I figure
by the time by the time Dak signs his contract, it's going to be $55-60 million.
I mean, that Kirk Cousins is 4 for 180. That's what, 65. So I guess, yeah. Dak's
Yeah,
been
I wouldn't have done that either.
Yeah, I wouldn't have paid him. I'd have paid Kirk, but not that much money. So we could dwell on Zeke and Dak for a while. We'll see. We'll see what happens here. I mean, really, the offseason notes will be for quarterbacks is going to be Dak and Tua's contracts. Do they let them play out, or do they put money in? We'll see. If you had to sign, you don't like either of those quarterbacks, but your team has only two options. Which one of those two quarterbacks do you make the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? You got to pick one.
Well, I'm taking whichever one takes less money.
They both get equal money. Same contract.
This is a stupid question because I would make either one of these guys the highest
But
paid
you have
quarterback.
to. Your team has it. You got to pick one.
I'm not answering. I would go quarterbackless. I'm not playing. I will put me at quarterback before I make either one of these guys the top paid quarterback in the NFL. Not doing it. I'm not even going to play that game. Neither one of them deserve it.
Right in the wild. Zeke is
bring Ronnie Brown back.
We're back to Dallas using Zeke at quarterback again.
Yeah,
and Ronnie Brown in Miami.
Yeah, let's do it.
JJ Wang, we're going to spend a little time with rookie quarterbacks. We've talked about some of the hot takes, but you got some interesting takes for us to go, maybe some deep dives, a little looking at some other guys that could. I mean, we had 62, I think that's the number, starting quarterbacks last year. So some of these guys that we don't even know their names could be a starting quarterback for a couple games this year.
Well, basically what I want to do is I want to talk about the top of the draft. We'll get into like the deeper quarterbacks. Well, we got 2 weeks left. So I want to talk about how the top of the real NFL draft seems to be more of a fantasy draft, like for us fantasy players, right?
Sure.
Because you've got your 4 quarterbacks, probably your 3 wide receivers, and at this point, the way people are talking, the Broncos seem to like Bo Nix at like
really
pick 13 for some awful crazy reason. I don't think that's going to happen. But the way Michael Penix proved at the combine, Michael Penix was a lot faster than I had anticipated, and he ran like a 4.5 at the combine, and that's way better than what it looked like he was in college. I mean, he barely ever left the pocket in college. So with Michael Penix, I probably on the Michael Penix train more than I would be the Bo Nix train.
Welcome.
So I might be with you there, but I want to look at the top of there's been like a lot of talk this week about J.J. McCarthy, right? Possibly moving up to the number 2, to that new number 2 quarterback to the Commanders. Of course, we got Jim Harbaugh saying, this guy is the best quarterback that, that is playing quarterback in the NFL. Are you buying the J.J. McCarthy hype, or are you buying the lies of the season?
The problem is Drake May doesn't move the needle for me either. So J.J. McCarthy and Drake May are close to the same person, except J.J. McCarthy has better big game experience. He's won the title. He's played with the professional coach. He's played in, I mean, Drake May's playing in the ACC, which is not nearly as good as it used to be. J.J. McCarthy, I mean, Michigan won. He showed that he's a winner. He pulled up. I mean, I feel more comfortable drafting him than I do Drake May. I mean, do I feel more comfortable drafting both of those than Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix? No, not at all. They would be probably 4 McCarthy, 5 May. Like May just, I don't know. He has that Sam Howell stink to him because they're the same school. But, I don't know. Like it seems like a Manders move, and I don't feel like I think Caleb Williams. I'm worried about the top of the draft. I think the first 2 quarterbacks are going to stink it up. 1, because he's inside his own head. 2, because I just don't.
You bring up Caleb Williams. I may like after this last week or so. I think everybody says he's great, but I'm not so. I don't know if this is the kind of guy that I want on my team.
I've been saying it some time.
You have been saying it. I've been trying to fight it. Just because he's got all the talent, but I don't. I'm not trying to dive into what this guy does on his off time or anything like that. But
no nail polish or lip gloss.
Nail polish, lip gloss, pink phones, wearing dresses. I don't know if this is.
Dennis Rodman was great doing that. Yeah, but Dennis Rodman
had proved himself before he started doing that. He was already a bad dude in Detroit before any of that ever stuff ever started to happen. And Caleb Williams, I mean, coming into the NFL, I mean, this is a man's game. I'm not saying Caleb Williams is a manly man here.
He's coming in. I think he's just doing that for attention. He's like, oh, look, I got, but he just doesn't seem to have the headspace to get out of his own way. Like, I really think he's going to Chicago, which never has a good quarterback. So I don't know. Like, he's a good player, but I just don't know how he transfers. He reminds me of like all those ball boys from basketball, and just name one, like one of them. Which one's the good one? The point guard in Charlotte had a couple, but they came in like ahead of steam, and their dad just
Ball brothers, LaMelo,
and all the Ball brothers from basketball. He reminds me kind of that without the dad. He's the dad, and I just think it's going to cause problems in the locker room. They're not going to want to do it. You need a guy who's strong, that you can respect, who's going to stand there and not be his own man, and I think that's going to cause problems when he wants to be a basketball star. Like basketball players, you can be that one guy around a team, like Michael Jordan, Kobe, all those guys. But NFL, it's so the quarterback is the star, but they've got to know that they can rely on. If they think you're a big egotistical jerk, I just think talent can't win over teammates that don't want to play with you.
So are you still drafting Caleb? Say you got the first pick. Are you drafting Caleb, or are you just taking somebody else?
I'd trade. I was having a conversation the other day. Like, if I have to pick, if I had zero quarterbacks, you've got to take Caleb. I think you've got to, don't you? I mean,
if you're having quarterback issues, I think you probably got to take Caleb. But I mean, like,
I got two quarterbacks. Marvin Harrison's tempting. Like, I would not shame someone who takes Marvin Harrison because I really see this being that draft from the other years. Like, it's so hyped at quarterback. There are going to be 6 quarterbacks in the top 10.
Speaking of Marvin Harrison, does the fact that he's not working out at all, this guy hasn't done nothing at the combine, nothing at his pro day. He was like, if you want me to work out, I can. I got no issues, but you've seen what I can. You've seen what I can do on the tape. My NFL lineage is legit. So, is there anything that Malik Neighbors can do? I mean, he ran like a 4.35. So, I mean, this guy's a burner. So, I mean, he might be legit, but does Malik Neighbors doing some of the stuff at his pro day, does that move the needle for you, or is Marvin Harrison still the guy, right?
I like them both, yeah. What Malik Neighbors would do to move up the draft board is get drafted in a better situation. I mean, JSN last year was the number 1 receiver, but his situation was terrible. So if you're a guy, like I got him on one of my teams, and I could have used him because I missed the playoffs by this team because of just some bad luck. Because he just didn't do it. He's got all the talent in the world. So you take Marvin Harrison, all the talent in the world, put him – oh, gosh, where could we put – I'm just trying to think of a team that has – like maybe Miami does something stupid like trading him. That's not a good pick. But, something like that where he's got 2 good receivers. He's still great, but he's not going to be fantasy relevant. And then put Neighbors somewhere where he's going to get the rock thrown to him. My brain's frying right now. So you throw him down in
with the Chargers, maybe. With
Chargers. Yeah, Chargers. Whichever one of them goes to the Chargers is my first wide receiver on the board. The Chargers are taking one of these 2 guys or 3 guys. Go to the top 3. Whoever goes to the Chargers is the guy I want.
I'm not certain that Chargers are going for a receiver here. Jim Harbaugh he's not a throwing type coach. I mean, this guy's more of like I feel like he's more of a ground and pound type. Now, I know he's got Justin Herbert, so he does have to bend a little to make Justin Herbert as good as possible. But I feel like there's still offensive line may help Justin Herbert a lot more too, because that offensive line wasn't great. So, I mean, you got that Joe Alt kid. I mean, he's getting a lot of looks at number 5 there too, and then maybe Malik Neighbors slides to number 6 to the Giants, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be. Yeah, I'm looking at one here on NFL.com where Marvin Harrison goes to the Chargers. Neighbors, like I don't see how they got their best receiver is a guy whose big knock was he can't catch the ball. He didn't look terrible towards the end, but I just don't see him pass it. You trade it down if you want. I mean, Harbaugh trades if he doesn't take Harrison, or if he doesn't take Neighbors there, he trades down. Any of those three receivers, but yeah, because they don't have a receiver, and they got the Gus bus, so they're good at running back because he's going to be.
Yeah, I agree. It's just hard to believe that, like, the top 5-6 picks are just going to be quarterbacks and wide receivers. You feel like there's going to be some offensive lineman. I don't think there'll be any defensive players, but I think maybe an offensive lineman might slide in there. But the way these guys, the way the NFL is going, it might be like this every year. So it's pretty
100%.
crazy. It'd be good for us fantasy guys.
We've taken over.
But so I got two guys. They're not quarterbacks, but I got two guys kind of closer to where, closer here to Virginia, where I live, some guys that I'm able to watch. The first guy actually went to the University of Virginia. He's a wide receiver. His name's Malik Washington. His first 3 years, not great. Went to Northwestern. We all, nobody really knows anybody that went to Northwestern. But he comes to Virginia. Now, Malik Washington isn't. No, I'm not a short guy type. That's not my favorite. But Malik Washington is 5'8", but he is 190. So 190 is pretty thick for 5'8". So Tank Dell plus, a little thicker. He is 23 years old, so he did play all 4 years. But the kid had I don't want to say kid, but the guy had 110 catches for 1,400 yards and 9 touchdowns. He ran a 4.4 7 at the combine, so he's got pretty decent speed. Now, he does play mainly slot, which is, it doesn't really matter these days. These guys can come in and slide right into the NFL. But I was able to watch a few games, and this guy seems to be open all the time. Now, he does get a lot of dump offs, a lot of swings. But if you watch the guy run down the field, honestly, I think he's open a lot. And if you got a scrambling quarterback, he's one of those receivers that when this quarterback scrambles, he knows where to go. He's going to find that open spot. Do you know much about Malik Washington?
I've seen a little bit of him here or there, and being in Virginia pop up, and I got some UVA fans that they've talked very highly of him. I think an interesting stat is when he's targeted, his quarterback's rating is 101.2, meaning pretty short, but it is all the short stuff. So what does that skew it? But a thick slot receiver that, you look at, I was thinking Rondale Moore, but Rondale Moore is 10 pounds lighter than he is. So it gets you that if you're going to be not much taller than me and you're going to be a slot receiver getting far be it that you can't tackle anybody anymore, but you got to be able to take the hit. You saw Wes Welker just get hammered how many times, and that's what slowed him. But but he's thicker, and that's gonna. And then get to the NFL. Figure you're gonna put 5 more pounds on that, so he's gonna be 5'8", $195, which is pretty solid. That makes him, a short what his frame will be. I like that. He's going to be a bargain basement guy. He'd be a guy to target. He'll probably fall to the 4th round, the 3rd or 4th round of the fantasy.
Late third, top 4th. Watching him play, the guy gets open, but it looks like to me the quarterback isn't good enough to get him the ball most of the time. Maybe the offensive line maybe collapses a little bit. But I think put this guy with a legitimate NFL offense, and I think you might have a weapon. Yeah, so let's move to West Virginia, down to Marshall. Running back Rasheen Ali. He is 23, so he is a little older. Played all 4 years at Marshall. 5'11", so 206. So he's got good size. A little more weight, like you said. When you get in the NFL, you might put a little more weight on there. So you get 5'11", 210. That's ideal size. Now, the problem is he did rupture his bicep at the Senior Bowl. I'm not really sure how long it takes a ruptured bicep to heal. I'm not 100% sure. But looking at his stats, in 2021, the guy murdered at 1,400 yards, 23 rushing touchdowns. I think he added another one receiving. He had 46 catches that year. He had a knee injury in 2022. I think he probably would have came out if he would have played the whole 2022 season. But being that he got injured, comes back to school, and another 1,100 yards with 15 touchdowns. They have 28 catches, so he can catch the ball. like he's not super fast, but I mean he's fast enough. He's more of like a one cut guy. I mean he's going to find the hole and go. He's not going to dance around much. But I mean I kind of like what I see. I mean if you're looking for running backs, in that fourth round and beyond, which is where you think you're going to get a lot of these guys at, I think Rasheen Ali at that point, if he's going in the fourth round, maybe fifth round, I think you're definitely going to take a shot on him, especially the way the amount of running backs that you need in the NFL. Any thoughts?
Well, I'm looking at two things. Dr. DJ Dove here says rehab takes about 2 months on a torn
Oh, that's
bicep,
not bad. Not
3 to 4 months for your bicep muscle to heal. So, but what is he's the size is good. I mean, a 4.4 is not slow, so he's not. It's not like he's plodding along
It
like
doesn't. He just doesn't look fast when he's on tape. I mean, it just doesn't look super speedy. But I'm like I said, if you're in a 4.4, that's fine. I mean, that's ideal. That's ideal speed. I mean, anywhere in the 4.4s, I mean, I think you're going to find your way onto a roster.
And I'm liking his pre-draft visits. I mean, he's getting pre-draft visits with Ravens, Chiefs, Titans. If you're going to visit some teams where you might get some play, boom, those are three great places to go. He won't have to go in and take every down, but it will help him get in, get the wheels rolling, and then he'll be one snap away because all three of those teams pretty much, he's I mean, Ravens, they have Henry, so he'll learn from a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Titans, they've got the two guys, which if he plays well enough, I mean, neither of those two guys are that expensive. The Chiefs have Pacheco, and did CEH ever go anywhere? I should look that up.
I haven't heard anything about the guy. I'm not really sure what they're going to do with him. I don't know.
I mean, he's a free agent, but the thing is, the Chiefs would be if he went to the Chiefs. Holy moly, to be in there, he wouldn't. But I like that he would be a guy you're drafting, not expecting right now. He's an insurance.
Oh yeah, this is definitely a taxi squad guy.
Yeah, I like that where he's headed, and I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't get some starts next year. The way the NFL rolls, I mean, he's not rated high, so he could be that sneaky guy. Somebody's asking me who's your sneaky guy this year. I said I don't know yet. We'll see what happens after the draft. Who's my Puka? Who's my?
I mean, that's kind of what I'm starting to look at now. I mean, I've been focusing on like the top 15, top 20 guys. But now I'm starting to dive a little deeper, looking into some of these guys that maybe I can find that nobody else really pays much attention to. And you might be able to get for $4 or $5 in a auction draft, something like that.
Yeah, it just made me. I was looking. I want us to talk about. We'll throw out the name Frank Gore Jr. for later on.
And it's crazy that all their kids are starting to play in the NFL now. It's insane. I don't know.
I'm old. So
yeah, it feels crazy, but yeah, that's what we got as far as rookie goes this week. Any final thoughts?
No, I said give us some wisdom. We'll close it out. We'll spend another 10 minutes for our friends from Trust the Process because we can't do math. We did 6 teams out of 10. So give us some closing thoughts for anybody who doesn't want to hear about our fantasy league, and then if you do, continue listening as we talk about Trust the Process.
So my closing thoughts. I don't know how close of attention you're paying to women's college basketball at the moment, if at all. I mean, a lot of people really don't. But Caitlin Clark, of course, we all know the lady from Iowa, the all-time leading scorer. She got a pretty lucrative offer this. Have you heard about this?
Mm-mm.
So she got a pretty lucrative offer this week. Of course, she'll probably be the first pick in the WNBA draft, but we know there's not a lot of money involved in the WNBA draft. They get no money. But Ice Cube came out this week. As you know, Ice Cube, part of the Big Three, offered Caitlin Clark $5 million to play a possible 10 games for this upcoming season. Now, look, it sounds great for Caitlin Clark. This might be the most money you will ever make. But I will be honest with you. Make your money, but I can't see this going good for her at all in the Big Three. The Big Three isn't a bunch of scrubs. The Big Three is retired NBA players that are 6'7", 6'5", 6'8". Caitlin Clark is 6 foot. I don't think it's going to go well for her if she decides to. I don't think she'll do this. I don't think I don't think she'll want to diminish what she's done for the sport. But if she wants to make the money, fine. I've got no harm in it. I think it'll bring some ratings. But I think she's got to be careful here how she handles this. What quick thoughts on this? I don't know. You got anything to say?
I've never watched it. Is the league more shooting or dunking? Is it show or is it shoot? Because if it's something
it's a legitimate 3-on-3 pickup game. I mean, they take it serious. I mean, they've got a spot on the court for 4-pointers. So I mean, for people that are shooting from the logo, that's great. Caitlin Clark can shoot that far. But in a game of 3-on-3, if you're just going to leave a person out there to shoot at the logo that really can't do nothing else, it's kind of going to hurt your team. And these guys take this pretty seriously.
Oh, she's taking the money. There's no way on earth. She's going to be a star in like some other country. Probably not Russia after the Brittany Griner stuff, but somewhere in Europe, she'll make her money. That's where women make their monies overseas. She'll star in the WNBA to get her name out, get money. But $5 million, she's not leaving that on the table. We talked about money with she'd be stupid. She's going to go up there, and she's a baller. It's not like would she be better than playing against 45-year-old Sean Kemp or 85-year, whatever he is? But those guys
first off, it's not Sean Kemp that she's playing. I mean, she's playing guys that are 35 years old, 36 years old, 37 years old that are still highly, highly athletic with wingspans that are crazy. And for her to get her shot off over these guys, good luck, Caleb. But I'll watch. So as always, trust yourself and trust the process.
Okay. Now we're going to give you a couple minutes talking about one of our leagues. It's called Trust the Process. Last week we went over the top 6 teams. These last 4 teams are our rebuilding teams, more or less, teams that are trying to figure out where they stand, how to get in, and we have a brand new owner in here as well that we'll be highlighting. So maybe with our next league we'll learn math, but we did 6 as opposed to 5 and 5, and it works out because we talked a lot today. So JJ Wang, which team are we looking at here as we close out Trust the Process?
So going to number 7, I've got Bird Gang 1976. I feel like he could be a little higher here. He could possibly move up to 5, 6, maybe even 4. He's got a little short on his wide receivers, and quarterback's a little bit struggling. I mean, we got Justin Herbert, so we know that's great, right? Great there. Geno Smith, I'm not sure. Geno Smith is the starter going into the season, but how long does Geno Smith last? Derek Carr, I'm pretty sure everybody's probably out on Derek Carr after last year. And then there's Zach Wilson. I don't even know if we really need to mention Zach, right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah. So at running back, it's got Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, and Derrick Henry. So I mean, that's a good, solid running back crew to start. And DeAndre Swift. Do you think DeAndre Swift is more valuable than any of those guys, or would you take all of them over DeAndre Swift?
Christian McCaffrey's the one. It's not even close. Kamara, I thought he was going to play good last year. Swift is so fired. He is what? Is he the Tyler Lockett of running backs? Tyler Lockett.
He could be.
Yeah,
I think Tyler Lockett's better. Yeah.
As he tells, but he started out so strong. I was like, wow, Swift's probably going to prove me wrong. But he's in Chicago. They added weapons, so it might be a perfect storm for him. I just don't trust. I mean, I would probably play him over Kamara because Kamara just looked like he was off. So, I mean, you got 3 running backs there. So, I mean, and Jaylen Warren could sneak in. I mean, right now, Deuce Vaughn, we forgot about him in Dallas. Like, maybe Deuce Vaughn's number 1. He's 30 pounds lighter than me and my height. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, so I mean, wide receiver, this is where it struggles. We got Amari Cooper. I mean, he's solid. I don't know about a number 1. Quentin Johnson, your favorite player. DeAndre Hopkins, not sure how long he can go. We got Dontavius Wicks. We kind of like him from Green Bay. But after that, there's not much else to look at. Tight end does got T.J. Hawkinson and Dalton Kincaid. Maybe he can move one of those for a receiver, maybe.
Oh, hey, we missed Derrick Henry, by the way, too. He's on there. So he's got good running backs.
I said Derrick Henry.
I missed him when I was paying attention. Sorry. Henry's the 2 to me. Sorry about that. Okay, but yeah, the receivers are trifling. Cooper should be a 1, and he showed out last year, so why not? But everything else is.
Hey, Jerry Jeudy did come to Cleveland. Watch out.
I said Cooper could be the 1, and They decided they don't want to pay anybody else because they're paying all their money to Jerry Jeudy and Deshaun Watson, two stellar football players. D-Hop, I think, will be okay-ish, but other than that, man, he is trifling in a receiver. And the problem is we start 4 receivers. Like, it's not even a thought there. Like, yeah, definitely trade a receiver for a tight end for a receiver with Dalton and Hawkinson. I mean, likely you could get a low-end receiver for it because he still is going to get some targets.
Absolutely.
So he's got, yeah, that's his ammunition. But yeah, that until he gets at least 1 or 2 more receivers, big trouble going on.
All right, so moving to the number 18, we got Adams 91. Just joined the league last year. Came into a very bad situation. The team was pretty rough. I think he's got a pretty solid quarterback room here. He's got Jordan Love and Anthony Richardson. I mean, that's a nice young core to start. Jordan Love, we both like. Anthony Richardson looked good in the few games that he played. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. Gardner Minshew is the starting quarterback at the moment, so he might get lucky there with that third guy. Moving to running back, it's a little sketchy here. He does got Kyron Williams, so he's got a good base there. But after that, we got Joe Mixon, Roshan Johnson. I mean, Zach Moss, maybe Josh Kelly, and with the Chargers, maybe might get a little bit of run. Damian Harris, he retired, so I don't know if you get any love for Damian Harris.
I do. And Zeke there. So he's got touchdowns. He's got Zach Moss. I think is going to get every chance to be the RB1 in Cincinnati. I like Mixon in Houston. I think it's a great fit for a guy who, I mean, you look at Cincinnati's line, it was never that good, but he just kept moving forward. And then, he'll have one game where he scores 57 points. The rest of the games will be about 10 to 12. So, but Mixon still has some juice. Kyron Williams is one, like his running backs, like the last team, they both have some running backs, and they don't have depth. They're down, like with anybody, though. I mean, who has enough running backs to cover yourself? Zach Moss finally played football, and he's got the starter, like Rashawn Johnson, I think, is toast. I was having a discussion the other day with my brother-in-law. He's like, oh, yeah, I got Johnson. I was like, yeah, except they signed Swift for some reason. So that means they don't like Johnson if you sign him. So
yes, and pretty much like the Bird Gang, his wide receivers are struggling. Does got Zay Flowers. I mean, he performed pretty well last year. Devontae Adams getting older, still might have one more good year left in him. Then we have Michael Gallup and Devontae Turpin. We got Nelson Aguilar. I don't think any of these guys will be making any news, so we might have to get a little bit. We are starting 4 wide receivers, so we might need to do something there. Tight end, pretty good tight end room. We got Trey McBride and Jake Ferguson, so that's 2 good tight ends there. You just needed to work on that wide receiver room a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit's not the word you were looking for, was it?
You're right, a lot of it. You're right.
A lot of it. Said yeah, he looks good, but he's getting old. Like I would swap out. He's not going to win this year. Take Devontae Adams, take Joe Mixon, trade those guys to someone contending. Put in Zach Moss while he's young.
So this guy has the first pick in the draft. Are we going Caleb Williams or Marvin Harrison?
I mean, it's still a dynasty. If he likes, I would go Marvin Harrison for him, but I wouldn't want Caleb Williams, so I'd go Marvin Harrison because I don't like Caleb Williams that much. But he should take Caleb Williams if that's the way it's got to look. It'll be interesting to see how we do our mock rookie drafts later on.
Yeah, it'll be fun. All right, so I think he's done a pretty good job building out that team because the team was awful when he took over. At number 9, we got my pronouns pronounced who today. She's got a little ways to go. I mean, her quarterbacks, Jared Goff and Justin Fields. Justin Fields isn't a starter at the moment, so she's probably got to do a little work there. At running back room's pretty good. We got Bijan, Devon A-Chain, and Travis Etienne with Brian Robinson as the number 4. So, I mean, the running back room is pretty impressive.
She always has had a decent running back room. She's the epitome of just like bad luck to a point too. I mean, once again, it's the receivers, but the running backs are great, and it's figuring out how to use those running backs to move around to get to where she needs to get. But getting Bijan in there, and that team's gonna do more. Use him. I think they were trying not to kill him last year. I tried to get H.A. all year, and I couldn't get anything out of it.
All right, our wide receivers, pretty much like the last 2 teams, this is where they struggle. So we got Brandon Ayuk. I love Brandon Ayuk. I think this guy's a legitimate wide receiver 1. But after that, we got Tyler Lockett. Might not stay in Seattle. Might continue playing somewhere, but he is getting older. Rashad Bateman. I'm not sure if we're in or out on Rashad Bateman. Probably pretty out. Michael Thomas. I don't even know if he plays anymore. Does Michael Thomas still play? I mean, every now and then.
I've heard talk of him going to Miami, actually.
Oh, everybody's going to go Miami. And at tight end, we got Evan Ingram. That's probably the best option there. Any thoughts on this? On these last two?
You missed Olamide Zaccheaus going to the Commanders. I mean,
third.
Yeah, it's in a league like this where you start 4 receivers. It's just a strategy thing to think about for people in other leagues or these 4 teams. Is in Dynasty, I try to build receiver out, receiver, quarterback, tight end out. Like running back is like the last position you get. If your team is desolate, use those running backs that are towards the end of their first contract. So look at like ETN, look at and use their leverage to get a young receiver. Use their leverage to move up to get the receivers, because the receiver you're going to have generally 8 to 10 years. A running back 3 to 5. There's exceptions. Quarterback a decade and a half. Tight end same. So you want the running backs. They're plug and chug. You could win with. I mean, think of how many teams won championships with Danny Woodhead. You know, you get that, but you need the Justin Jefferson along the Danny Wood. You know, you need that. You need receivers to get, and that's why we're talking about these teams. So she could really hedge her bets by trying to move some of those, take one of those running backs and hedge him into a receiver or some a top tier.
And with the way people need running backs, some of the top teams will definitely come to you for the running backs if you're down low like that. So moving to the last team, and this is the newest addition to our team. We got Dallas Reigns, our boy Mark. Looking at the quarterbacks, we got 2 aging quarterbacks that are coming off pretty serious injuries. We got Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers. Both of them probably still going to start. And he does have a surprising third starter at the moment. I didn't even know he was on the free agency wire. I probably would try to pick him up too. And that's my homeboy, Sam Darnold. So I mean, the starting quarterback there with running backs. We got 2. We got Rashad White, Raheem Mostert, who did re-sign with Miami earlier this week, I do believe. Yep. Khalil Herbert got hurt with DeAndre Swift coming over. But past that, I mean, it's kind of struggling running back room.
Yeah, running back. This team, I don't think is the worst team in the league by a mile, because of what we're going to talk about in a second. But running backs where he's got to feel like just draft, throw a dart in the draft, hope you get it. I mean, A.J. Dillon's sitting there in Green Bay. Maybe he gets some goal line carries. He's an underperformer, you know. Khalil Herbert, I think, is dead. Like he's got no depth at running back, but he might just basically draft every running back he possibly can, or exchange some of the next guys we're going to talk about for a second tier running back. So that's all he can really do.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably move him up a little more. Look at his wide receiver. He's got a solid wide receiver room. He's got Jalen Waddle, Michael Pittman. Love both those guys. Well, I don't love Jalen Waddle. Michael Pittman, Stephon Diggs. We're not really sure what's going on with him. He stays in Buffalo. Does he leave Buffalo? Who knows? Jahan Dotson. I like Jahan Dotson coming into last year. I don't know how I like Jahan Dotson coming into this year. And yes, Mike Williams, Rashid Shaheed, who can still pop up here and there. Not really. Yeah, we do got Craig Dortch. I mean, yeah. And then the tight end. And his tight end room looks pretty good. I mean, we got Travis Kelce, Luke Musgrave, and Michael Mayer. So, I mean, we got a solid tight end room.
Yeah. Move a tight end for running back, you know, somewhere in there. Like he's got his receivers, he's got some guys down there to watch. I mean, currently Dortch is the number 1 receiver, right? Is he the number 1 receiver in Arizona? Hence the reason they're going to draft one of those receivers. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I mean, I think he's got a foundation there, and it's just going to matter. I haven't talked to him. I don't know how much dynasty he's really done. So just learning the dynasty, learning that, remember, it's 3-year cycles. It's paying attention to receivers and the contracts that guys have. And he'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was
about him than the other 3 teams, to be honest. Like, I think he's got less to do than the other 3 do.
I can kind of see that. I mean, as long as nothing happens to those quarterbacks, I mean, I feel like, because that with those aging quarterbacks, I feel like at some point you're going to have to start, you know, getting the younger one in there. But yeah, I mean, this team is a bad. He's coming into a little bit of something. The cupboards aren't completely dry. So yeah, that's our 10 teams for the Trust the Process League. Got another league we'll do. Might be still trying to find one more person for that one. So yeah, I enjoy this one. This is my oldest league here. So as always, trust yourself and trust the process.